Do you want to make a vest pattern at home without spending money on a digital pattern? Well, you clicked the right video. This is an easy self-drafted vest pattern that you can replicate at home. And obviously, there are many amazing patterns out there that you can get, but if you're looking to make a simple vest, this is the one you're looking for. So first things first, let's start with the pattern. Grab a t-shirt that fits you well, not too loose or not too tight. I'm using this basic tee from Uniqlo. Trace the basic outline of the vest. This depends on how you want the neckline to be. Basically, I'm just drawing the shape or the outline of the vest. I'm using a heat activated fabric pen, but you can use chalk if you have one. Then get a big sheet of paper that you can transfer your pattern to. You can use wrapping paper. I'm just using a craft paper. You want to fold your fabric in half, making sure that it's aligned. So now I'm just folding the neckline, following the outline that I just drew. Now grab a pencil and trace along the outline. Don't worry about making it perfect or not, because this is just a draft pattern. When you reach the armhole, this takes a little bit of time and patience. What I like to do is fold the fabric and make a dashed line right under my outline. And then after that, connecting the outlines together to make a really nice curve. So this is gonna be your base. Now I'm taking my ruler and I'm measuring 1 centimeter all around for my seam allowance. And this is when I realized that I ran out of space. So I erased the whole thing and I redid it. Anyway, after adding the seam allowance, you want to take your scissors and cut the pattern out. And don't forget to label them. Okay, now let's move on to the back piece. I'm pretty happy about the contour of this shirt, so I'm not changing too much. I'm just following the outline. The only thing that I'm making adjustment to is the sleeves. And now I'm also adding a 1 centimeter seam allowance all around except for the center back. And then I'm just gonna label and cut it out. Now that we're done with the pattern, let's start cutting them. Let's start with the front piece. I'm placing my pattern over 2 pieces of fabric, and then all I'm doing is cutting the pattern out. What I really like about this self-drafted pattern is that you can be as creative as you want. You can adjust the neckline, the armhole, and even the length of the pattern to your liking. So after cutting the front piece, it's gonna look something like this, and now we can move on to the back. I'm just folding my fabric in half, and I'm placing the center back part of the pattern on the folded side of the fabric, and then just cut the pattern out. After all the cutting, you should end up with something like this. You'll end up with one back piece and two front pieces. And lastly, let's cut out the straps. I'm just folding my fabric a couple times just to make it a little bit easier, and I'm cutting my straps about 2 inches wide. This is where the fun starts. Let's join the pieces together. We're gonna start with finishing the raw edges. You can do this with an overlocker if you have one, or if you don't have one, you can do this with a zigzag stitch. If you're finishing the raw edges with a zigzag stitch, you want to change your stitch to a zigzag stitch, change your stitch length to the shortest, and change your stitch width to the longest. Mine's about 5 or 6. Pick a corner to start from, place your fabric on the very edge and start sewing. After you're done with all your raw edges, it's gonna look really pretty like this. Okay, now we are going to start attaching the sides and the shoulders with a straight stitch. Place your fabrics right sides facing each other, and what I like to do is to align the back and the front of the fabric on both ends and then clipping it. Then I'll clip the middle part of the fabric, and this kind of just makes sure that everything is even, it doesn't move around when I sew, just makes it nice and neat. And I'll do the same on the shoulders as well. Repeat this on the other side as well. Remember that you have the 1 cm seam allowance, so sew 1 cm from the seam. After all the sewing, you should end up with something like this, and now you can iron the side seams flat and then try it on. So this is when things become really subjective. You're gonna alter your vest depending on how it fits you and how you want it to fit. So for me, I realized that my armhole is a little bit too big, and I have a couple ways that I can alter it. So the first way is for me to add a dot, or the second way is for me to sew in the sides. You can alter it however way you like it. Remember, there is no right or wrong here. This is your creation, it's your vest, you will be wearing it. Or even better, if you are looking for a loose fit, you don't need to alter it at all. Anyway, what I'm doing is just clipping where I want my dots to be, drawing a rough line as a guide, and then sewing the dots. I know it's not perfect, but I'm wearing it, okay? Remember to do another try on after altering. I was pretty happy with mine, so let's move on. Have your fabric inside out and fold the seam about 1 cm in. Then pin it in place. You don't have to be too particular in this step because you want the front to have a little gap anyway for your ribbons. Do this all around the front of your vest. When you reach the neckline and there is a sharp corner, take your scissors and make a slit. Then overlap the fabric and continue sewing. This is going to create a really nice sharp edge on your neckline. Remember to also open up the seams flat to reduce bulk. I really like to use this way to finish my seams because it creates just a really nice and elegant look. Like that. Really nice and really clean. Now we're going to do the same thing on the armhole. Flip your fabric inside out, make sure the seam is nice and flat to reduce any bulk. Pin it in place if you need and sew a 1 cm seam allowance. And I like to start either from the armpit or the shoulder. This is a little bit trickier, so take your time with it. After you're done with that, it should look something like this, really nice and clean. Now repeat on the base of the vest. Now try the vest on to make sure that everything is the way you want it to be, making sure everything is nice and even. And I know that there's a gap in the middle of the vest, but that's fine, it's for your ribbons. Take your measuring tape and measure how far apart you want your ribbons to be. Now turn your fabric inside out one more time and mark where you want your ribbons to be. And again, you can be as creative as you want. You can add as many ribbons as you want. I'm just adding 3. We're almost there. Now we have to make the ribbons. Take your strips of fabric and fold it in half and sew a straight stitch about 1 cm wide or a little bit more. Grab your scissors and cut the excess fabric out. Now my secret tool to turn it inside out is a needle. Thread it like you normally would and make an anchor on either end of your ribbon. Place the needle into the ribbon and kind of move the needle through the tunnel. Once you get enough fabric, you want to pull the end where the anchor is to flip it inside out. Keep doing it until the needle comes out the other end. And keep going until you see the right side of the ribbon show up. Then keep pulling until your ribbon is right side out. Cut the end with the thread because you don't need it. And there you go, a really nice and thin ribbon. Cut the ribbon into equal lengths. Fold one edge of the ribbon and place it on the vest where you marked. Pin or clip it in place and repeat with all your ribbons. Okay, now everything is pinned in place. The very last step is to sew the ribbon in place. I'm doing 2 stitches to make it a little bit more secure. And obviously cutting out any loose thread. Here's a little close-up of the stitches. Then iron everything flat. This is my favorite part about ironing. The pen markings just disappears because it's heat activated. That's crazy. Look, gone. You can get them anywhere. I got mine from Amazon, but I'm pretty sure they sell them in craft stores as well. And just in case you need more evidence, here is the outline that I did on my shirt, and now it's gone. Isn't that crazy? And that's it, your DIY tie vest is all done. I actually made two pieces, one with the dot and the other one making the sides smaller. Yours might look a little bit different than mine, and that's okay. What matters is that you made this from scratch without a pattern. By the way, thank you guys so much for your support. I see every single one of your Scandi pants and your shoulder bag creations, and I love it. It makes my day every time. I really enjoyed making this video, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section. Love ya! Bye!